Lieutenant Mack Harwood stared at the massive holographic display of the alien spacecraft hovering above New York, Tokyo, and London. Massive didn't even begin to describe them. Each one stretched nearly 3 miles from end to end, their sleek metallic surfaces reflecting sunlight in ways that hurt the eyes. The kind of ships that said, "We're not here to make friends," without needing to fire a single shot. "So let me get this straight," Mack said, running a hand through his perpetually messy brown hair. "The space squids park their fancy ships above our major cities, declare themselves the Galactic Hegemony, and then give us 24 hours to surrender our planet or face total annihilation. Did I miss anything? Or is Tuesday just getting weird again?" Admiral Jenkins, a stern-faced woman with more salt than pepper in her cropped hair, didn't appreciate the humor. "This isn't the time for jokes, Lieutenant. These aliens have technology that makes our most advanced weapons look like slingshots and pointy sticks. With all due respect, Admiral, humor is how I process the fact that we're all probably going to be space dust by tomorrow afternoon." Mack gestured to the screens showing panicked crowds in major cities worldwide. "I'm guessing shoot them with everything we've got isn't on the table? Our initial analysis suggests their defensive capabilities would render conventional attacks useless. Even nuclear options would likely be intercepted before impact." Jenkins sighed, the weight of Earth's fate heavy on her shoulders. "What we need is time. The scientists believe they can adapt some of our defensive systems based on readings from their ships, but they need days, not hours." Mack nodded, his sarcasm momentarily subdued. "So we need a stall tactic. Get their pompous ambassador back in here and see if we can negotiate an extension." As if summoned by his words, the door to the emergency command center slid open. Ambassador Creel of the Galactic Hegemony glided in, flanked by 2 guards that resembled humanoid praying mantises if praying mantises wore power armor. The ambassador himself looked almost human, if humans had grayish-blue skin, no visible ears, and eyes that seemed to change color with each blink. "I trust Earth's leadership has come to the sensible decision," Creel said, his voice carrying an artificial quality suggesting advanced translation technology. "Your species' capitulation will ensure a painless transition to hegemony rule. We are not unreasonable, masters." Mack couldn't help himself. "Yeah, nothing says reasonable like threatening planetary genocide within 5 minutes of saying hello." Creel's eyes flashed from blue to a deep orange. "You mistake our efficiency for cruelty, Lieutenant Harwood. We have studied your species for some time. Humans are fractious, violent, and unpredictable. The hegemony brings order to chaos. Your historical records show you cannot achieve this on your own." "About those records," Jenkins interjected, shooting Mack a warning glance. "Your knowledge of humanity seems incomplete. Before we make any decisions, perhaps we could share more about Earth and its people? 24 hours is hardly enough time to decide the fate of an entire planet." Creel blinked slowly, his eyes shifting to a contemplative green. "Your request is not unreasonable. However, I must confer with the hegemon. The deadline remains in effect until I communicate otherwise." After Creel departed, Mack turned to Jenkins. I have an idea. It's unconventional, probably stupid, and possibly our only shot." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening. We need to find Dr. Ellie Voss. She's that historian who specializes in human conflict. And then we need access to every piece of war footage in our archives." Admiral Jenkins frowned. "You want to show these aliens, who already think we're violent, more evidence of our violence?" Mack grinned. "Exactly. But not just any violence. Our violence. The real, unfiltered humans being humans' kind. Trust me, Admiral. If these aliens think they've got our number, they're in for one hell of a surprise." Dr. Ellie Voss wasn't what most people expected when they heard military history expert. With her round glasses, perpetually ink-stained fingers, and tendency to forget she was in the middle of a conversation, and she seemed more suited to a forgotten corner of a university library than a high-security military facility during an alien invasion. "So you're saying," she mumbled while simultaneously typing something on her tablet, "that the aliens want to conquer us because they think we're disorganized and violent?" "That's the gist," Mack confirmed, watching as she absent-mindedly put her pen behind her ear for the 3rd time, despite already having one there. "That's fascinating," Ellie responded, finally looking up. "They've completely misunderstood human conflict. It's not chaos, it's pattern recognition on a civilizational scale. Mack blinked. Come again? War isn't our weakness. It's arguably our most refined skill. She pushed her glasses up her nose. Think about it. Humans have spent more time and resources perfecting the art of killing each other than on almost any other endeavor. War drives our technological innovation, shapes our social structures, even defines our art and culture. Mack leaned against the conference table. So you're saying we should brag about our wars? Not brag. Educate. Ellie's eyes lit up with academic passion, momentarily forgetting the apocalyptic deadline. If they think humans are just chaotic and violent, they're underestimating us by orders of magnitude. We're systematically, efficiently, creatively violent. And we're very, very good at it. Admiral Jenkins, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally spoke. You're suggesting psychological warfare. Make them fear us more than we fear them. Exactly, Mack said, the plan crystallizing. We show them exactly what they're in for if they decide to get hostile with humanity. All our greatest hits, so to speak. We need footage, Ellie added, already making a list. Primary sources from major conflicts. World Wars I and I, Vietnam, Middle East conflicts, drone footage, the more visceral, the better. Wait, Jenkins interrupted. You want to show aliens our wars? The very thing they're criticizing us for? With respect, Admiral, Mack countered, these aliens showed up with an ultimatum, not an invitation. They're not here because they think we're nice. They're here because they think we're easy targets. We need to change that perception real quick. And who's going to compile all this material in less than 24 hours? Mack grinned. I know just the guy. 3 hours later, Dexter Dex Morgan bounced into the conference room with the energy of someone who'd consumed nothing but energy drinks and enthusiasm for days. His bright orange hair matched his vibrant personality, and his fingers never seemed to stop moving, constantly fidgeting with some gadget or typing on invisible keyboards. You want me to make a highlight reel of humanity's greatest war moments to scare away aliens? Dex's eyes widened with glee. That's either the coolest or the craziest thing I've ever heard, and I once hacked the Pentagon's coffee machines to play the Darth Vader theme whenever someone ordered decaf. Jenkins raised an eyebrow. I'll pretend I didn't hear that, Mr. Morgan. Just Dex, please. Mr. Morgan is my father, who coincidentally would love this plan. He's big on the whole humanity standing tall thing. Dex spun in his chair. So what's our angle? Gore? Strategy? The evolution of weaponry? I need a narrative through line. All of it, Ellie said firmly. We need to show the full spectrum of human warfare, the horror, yes, but also the ingenuity, the sacrifice, the relentless drive to overcome seemingly impossible odds. Mack nodded. We need to make them understand that threatening humans isn't just picking a fight. It's stepping into an arena with a species that has turned fighting into an art form. Jenkins looked unconvinced. And if this backfires? If showing them our capacity for violence just convinces them they were right to want to subjugate us? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Then at least we go down swinging, Mack finally said. With respect, Admiral, I don't see another option. We can't fight them conventionally, and I don't think they came all this way to be talked out of an invasion over tea and cookies. Jenkins considered for a long moment before giving a curt nod. You have 12 hours. Make them count. What about the Battle of Verdun? Ellie suggested, her eyes red-rimmed from hours of reviewing footage. The artillery barrages there were like nothing the world had seen before. The psychological impact alone. Too old, Dex interrupted, hands flying across multiple screens. Grainy black and white won't have the same impact. We need to establish the historical progression but focus on the visceral stuff. He pulled up high-definition footage from more recent conflicts. This drone strike footage shows precision that would make even advanced species think twice. Mack paced behind them, occasionally stopping to watch a clip. We need to emphasize adaptability. Humans don't just fight with better technology, we constantly change tactics. The hegemony probably values order and predictability. Let's show them the opposite. Permission to assist with historical contextualization? A smooth, feminine voice interjected from the room's speakers. Go ahead, Vera. Mack replied to the facility's AI assistant. Based on psychological profiles of hierarchical species similar to the hegemony's described structure, I suggest emphasizing human asymmetric warfare capabilities. Species that value order often struggle to comprehend or counter guerrilla tactics. Good point. Ellie nodded. Vietnam, Afghanistan, places where superpowers got bogged down fighting locals with inferior technology, but superior determination and knowledge of terrain. Dex snapped his fingers. Yes, and urban warfare scenarios. Nothing says don't invade us like showing how we turn our own cities into death traps for enemies. Mack reached for his coffee, his fourth cup since they started. We also need to show the philosophical side. Humans don't just fight because we're violent. We fight for ideas, for freedom, for each other. How very poetic, Vera commented dryly. Though statistically speaking, humans have fought for resources and power far more frequently than for abstract concepts. Thank you for that uplifting analysis, Vera, Mack replied. But perception matters here. We need the hegemony to see that we're not just dangerous because we're good at killing. We're dangerous because we believe in things worth dying for. Ellie's eyes widened. The memorial sections. We need footage of Arlington, the Vietnam Wall, Normandy beaches. Show them that we remember our wars, that they shape our consciousness for generations. I like where this is going, Dex nodded, creating a new section in their presentation. Start with ancient battles, move through the world wars, show the nuclear age, then modern precision warfare. End with the memorials, the respect we have for our own capacity for destruction. And through it all, Mack added, we emphasize that all this violence, all this ingenuity in warfare, has been human versus human. Imagine what we'd do if we united against an external threat. They worked through the night, Vera's algorithms helping sort through thousands of hours of footage. X's technical wizardry created transitions that told a story beyond the mere chronology of events. Ellie provided historical context that turned random violence into a narrative of human evolution and resilience. By dawn, they had compiled 60 minutes of the most compelling, horrifying, and awe-inspiring warfare footage in human history. From ancient battle reenactments to 21st century combat, the presentation painted a picture of a species that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war. It's ready, Dex announced, slumping back in his chair. I've added some subtle audio effects to enhance impact for non-human auditory systems. Based on what we know of their physiology, certain frequencies should trigger their equivalent of an adrenaline response. Mack reviewed the final cut, his expression grim. This isn't just a history lesson anymore. This is psychological warfare. Ellie nodded solemnly. Let's hope it works. Because Plan B is basically politely surrender and hope they don't kill us all anyway. A compelling alternative, Vera commented. I have calculated the probability of this plan's success at approximately 23.7%. Never tell me the odds, Dex muttered. That's actually higher than I expected, Mack admitted. Admiral Jenkins needs to see this before we show the aliens. The conference room had been transformed into an impromptu theater. Large screens covered the walls, the lighting dimmed to focus attention on the central display. Ambassador Creel sat rigid in his specially designed chair, his military-attached Commander Grox standing stiffly behind him. Several other hegemony officials occupied the remaining seats, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Admiral Jenkins made the introductions with formal military precision. As requested, we have prepared information about humanity that we believe is essential to your understanding of our species before any decisions are made. Creel inclined his head slightly. The hegemon has graciously extended your deadline by 6 hours to accommodate this presentation. I trust it will be illuminating rather than a delay tactic. Oh, it'll be illuminating all right, Mack muttered under his breath before stepping forward. Ambassador, Commander, distinguished representatives, what you're about to see is not propaganda. It is not exaggeration. It is simply human history specifically, the history of human conflict. Ellie stood to Mack's right, tablet in hand, ready to provide specific details if requested. Dex manned the controls, fingers hovering over the interface to make real-time adjustments based on alien reactions. Vera, begin presentation, Mack commanded. The screens came to life with ancient battle scenes, recreations of early human warfare, bronze and iron weapons clashing, formations of men moving with surprising coordination. Humans have been engaged in organized warfare for over 5,000 years, Mack narrated, his voice deliberately calm and measured. Every advance in our technology has been accompanied by an advance in our capacity to wage war. The footage shifted to medieval battles, then to the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, showing the evolution of tactics and weaponry. Commander Grox leaned forward slightly, his compound eyes fixed on the formations moving across muddy European fields. Interesting, but primitive, Creel commented, seemingly unimpressed. All species have violent origins. Mack simply nodded, giving Dex the signal to continue. The screens exploded with World War I footage, the first mechanized war, chemical weapons creating clouds of death over trenches filled with mud and blood and desperation. Just 50 years later, humans had industrialized killing, Mack continued, his tone remaining conversational even as the footage grew increasingly disturbing. World War I saw the deaths of 20 million people, but that was just a prelude. Now World War II footage filled the screens, blitzkrieg tactics, aerial bombardments, the devastating impact of artillery and tanks, atomic mushroom clouds rising over Japan. One of the hegemony officials made a sound like a suppressed gasp. Commander Grox's mandibles clicked rapidly, apparently a sign of agitation. Within 3 decades, humans had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds, Mack explained. And yet this too was just another step in our evolution of warfare. The presentation continued relentlessly through the Cold War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, showing the progression to precision munitions, drone warfare, cyber attacks. Each segment was carefully selected to emphasize not just destruction but adaptation, innovation, and the human capacity to find new ways to fight under any circumstances. Humans have fought in deserts, jungles, mountains, oceans, and urban centers, Mack narrated as the screens showed special forces operations in varied terrains. We have fought with everything from sticks and stones to nuclear weapons. We have developed tactics for every environment, every situation, every type of enemy. Ambassador Creel's skin had taken on a grayish pallor, his color-changing eyes now fixed in a disturbed yellow. Commander Grox had stopped his mandible clicking and now stood completely motionless, a sign that Ellie had identified as extreme focus among his species. The presentation reached its final segment, the monuments and memorials, the solemn ceremonies honoring fallen warriors. And yet, perhaps most importantly, Mack said quietly, we remember. Every war teaches us. Every conflict makes us stronger, more resolved, more united. All of this. He gestured to the screens showing the endless rows of white crosses at Arlington, is what we've done to ourselves. Imagine what we would do to an existential threat from beyond our world. As the screens faded to black, a profound silence filled the room. This concludes our presentation, Admiral Jenkins stated formally. Ambassador Creel, Commander Grox, we await your response. The moment the hegemony representatives left to process the information and confer with the hegemon, the tension in the command center shifted from professional restraint to anxious speculation. Well, Grox looked like he was about to molt right out of his exoskeleton, Dex observed, spinning nervously in his chair. Is that good or catastrophically bad? Because I can't tell the difference between I respect your martial prowess and I'm going to vaporize your planet immediately in alien body language. Admiral Jenkins paced the length of the room, hands clasped behind her back. They're rattled, that's clear enough. Whether that works in our favor remains to be seen. Their physiological responses indicated stress, Vera reported. Ambassador Creel's heart rate increased by 37% during the World War II footage. Commander Grox's pheromone levels suggest what would be classified as alarm in similar terrestrial species. Mack leaned against the wall, outwardly calm but inwardly second-guessing every moment of the presentation. Maybe we showed too much. Maybe we should have emphasized reconstruction efforts more than the destruction. No, Ellie said firmly, surprising everyone with her sudden assertiveness. If we'd softened it, they wouldn't have taken us seriously. The point wasn't to show that we're nice despite being capable of violence. It was to show that we're formidable because of that capacity. Dex stopped spinning. Yeah, but what if they just decide to skip the invasion and go straight to sterilize the planet from orbit? I'm pretty sure that montage of urban warfare tactics wasn't exactly a great advertisement for humans make compliant subjects. If they wanted to simply destroy us, they could have done so without warning, Jenkins reasoned. The fact that they announced themselves suggests conquest rather than extermination was their goal. Unless the ultimatum was just a formality, Mack countered. A box they had to check for some Galactic Geneva Convention before they could legally wipe us out. Ellie shook her head. Their behavior suggests a hierarchical, protocol-driven civilization. Such societies typically value rules and procedures. Breaking their own stated terms would be unusual. Dr. Voss is correct, Vera chimed in. Based on linguistic analysis of Ambassador Creel's communications, their society places high value on predictability and order. Changing course dramatically without new information would be inconsistent with their demonstrated patterns. And we definitely gave them new information, Dex muttered. Like how humans invented 50 different ways to breach fortified positions in just the last century alone. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. Finally, Admiral Jenkins spoke, her voice carrying the weight of command. Whatever happens next, you three have done all that could be asked of you. If we survive this, I'll make sure that's recognized. If we don't, she allowed herself a small, grim smile. Well, at least we didn't go quietly. Great, Dex replied, his nervous energy finally finding release in gallows humor. My epitaph, here lies Dexter Morgan, who helped piss off the aliens so much they killed everyone. Mom would be so proud. Actually, Ellie offered helpfully. In a planetary sterilization scenario, there wouldn't be enough remained of our bodies to justify epitaphs. Thank you, Dr. Voss, for that clarification, Mack said, rolling his eyes. Really helps with the morale. I was simply correcting a factual, Ellie began, before noticing everyone's expressions. Oh, that was inappropriate humor. I see. The facility's alert system suddenly blared, interrupting their banter. Vera's voice cut through the alarm. Ambassador Creel is requesting to address Earth's representatives immediately. Their vessels are showing increased energy signatures. Jenkins straightened her uniform. This is it, people. Whatever happens next, remember you represented humanity with courage and intelligence. And a killer highlight reel, Dex added, unable to help himself even now. As they filed back into the conference room, Mack caught Ellie's arm. Any last brilliant insights about alien psychology? She adjusted her glasses, considering. Just one. In hierarchical species, backing down is often harder than escalating. If they've decided to attack, they'll do it without further discussion. If they're here to talk, then maybe, just maybe, we scared them just enough, Mack finished for her. Ambassador Creel stood unnaturally still as the humans re-entered the conference room. His skin had shifted to a pale blue that none of them had seen before, and Commander Grox remained several steps farther back than protocol dictated. Representatives of Earth, Creel began, his translator failing to mask a slight tremor in his voice. The Hegemon has reviewed your historical documentation and has reached a decision regarding your world status. Mack exchanged glances with Ellie. The ambassador's body language was distinctly different, less imperious, more restrained. Whether that indicated good news or imminent destruction was anyone's guess. The Galactic Hegemony, Creel continued after an uncomfortably long pause, will be immediately withdrawing all forces from your solar system and establishing a buffer zone of 5 light years around your territory. A stunned silence fell over the human side of the room. Admiral Jenkins recovered first. Ambassador, am I to understand that the hegemony is no longer demanding Earth's surrender? That is correct. Creel's eyes had settled into a steady teal color. The Hegemon has classified humanity as a Level 7 species. And what exactly does Level 7 mean? Mack asked, unable to keep the suspicion from his voice. Commander Grox finally spoke, his translated voice carrying a distinct note of what could only be described as dread. It means potentially catastrophic if provoked. The classification typically reserved for natural disasters and unstable stellar phenomena. Dex coughed to cover what might have been inappropriate laughter. To be clear, Jenkins pressed, the hegemony now considers humanity too dangerous to conquer. Your species has devoted more resources, innovation, and cultural emphasis to warfare than any sentient civilization we have encountered in 12,000 cycles of expansion, but, Creel explained, your capacity for violence, coupled with your adaptability and apparent psychological comfort with extreme conflict scenarios, presents an unacceptable risk-reward ratio for standard integration procedures. Mack couldn't help himself. So what you're saying is, you watched an hour of our war movies and decided to head for the hills? Ellie elbowed him sharply, but Creel seemed beyond taking offense. Lieutenant Harwood, your species fights itself with a creativity and determination that our military analysts find disturbing. The footage of your trench warfare alone caused 3 of our senior strategists to recommend immediate withdrawal. Commander Grox's assessment was particularly emphatic. All eyes turned to the insectoid military officer, who seemed to be making himself as small as possible, no small feat for a 7-foot mantis-like creature in power armor. Your urban combat techniques are... Grox struggled for words. The concept of house-to-house fighting is unknown in galactic warfare. The resources required, the casualties accepted. It defies strategic logic. And yet you have perfected it. Admiral Jenkins straightened, a hint of pride crossing her face. So the hegemony will leave Earth alone? We will do more than that, Creel said. We will ensure other spacefaring civilizations understand humanity's classification. Your world will be given wide berth. After the aliens departed notably faster than diplomatic protocol would normally dictate, the humans gathered in the now quiet command center, the atmosphere thick with disbelief and dawning relief. Did we just win an interstellar war with a PowerPoint presentation? Dex asked, breaking the silence. Not a war, Ellie corrected. We prevented one. By showing them what war really means to humans. Max sank into a chair, the adrenaline of the past 24 hours finally catching up to him. So the good news is, we're not being invaded. The bad news is, we're now the galactic equivalent of a hurricane warning. I can think of worse reputations, Jenkins remarked dryly. Fear is a powerful deterrent. But is that how we want to be known? Ellie asked quietly. As the species too terrifying to approach. Our first contact with an advanced civilization. And we've established ourselves as the monsters of the galaxy. The question hung in the air, unanswered. Perhaps, Vera offered after a moment, it is not permanent. The hegemony now knows of humanity's capacity for warfare. They do not yet know of your capacity for peace, art, cooperation, or advancement. That may come with time. The AI's right, Dex nodded. We showed them 1 hour of who we are when pushed to the brink. There's a lot more to the human highlight reel than just the scary parts. And in the meantime, Mack added with a tired smile, we've bought ourselves time. Time to prepare, to advance, to figure out how to approach the galaxy on our own terms. Admiral Jenkins surveyed the small team that had, through desperation and ingenuity, secured humanity's freedom without firing a single shot. I believe there's an old Earth saying appropriate for this moment, she said, allowing herself a small smile. Sometimes the pen, or in this case, the video editor, truly is mightier than the sword. Or the planet-destroying death ray, Dex added helpfully. As laughter filled the room, the slightly hysterical laughter of those who have narrowly avoided catastrophe, Mack found himself staring at the blank screens that had recently displayed humanity's most terrible moments. For better or worse, humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not through messages of peace or friendship, but through the unfiltered truth of its complicated, violent history. And somehow, paradoxically, that truth had brought peace, at least for now. Humanity, so terrifying we scared away the alien invaders, Mack mused. Not exactly the first contact scenario anyone imagined. But very on brand for us, wouldn't you say? Ellie replied with unexpected humor. Humans, complicating galactic relations since 2025.